All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Darren, aka Bombadil from No Guts, No Galaxy, and this is another town hall meeting with Russ Bullock, president of Piranha Games. Tonight's town hall will focus primarily on the community warfare beta that launched last week, but if we have time, we may also take a little peek into the future of MechWarrior Online. I would first like to give a quick thank you to all of those who have and are helping behind the scenes with tonight's meeting, including Catrikel, Wingbreaker, Deadfire, and the NGNG crew. Thank you, guys. Also, a big thank you to all of you, the viewers. We appreciate you showing up and participating tonight. We will be taking your questions live and adding them to those that we've already gathered from the forums and Reddit and so forth. We are going to do our best to cover as many topics and issues as we can, but we are limited on time. So if we don't get to your question tonight, we apologize. It is nothing personal. Also, chat will be moderated tonight, so please keep it civil and respectful. And let's jump right in and say hi to Russ, president of PGI and makers of MechWarrior Online. How are you doing tonight, Russ?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on another one of these chats.
Well, we appreciate it, of course. Some of us have had about almost a week of community warfare beta under our belts. There's a lot of excitement, politics are underway, and as we were talking before, alliances are beginning to form. That being said, it is beta, and there are, of course, some issues and things that need to be developed further to realize the full potential of what community warfare is and should be. And you did just announce a patch, right? Hopefully tomorrow?
Yeah, we're just a little gun shy. We're just waiting for QA, who's probably going to be here till at least 9 or 10 o'clock tonight to confirm the patch is good to go. And even that's not a guarantee compared to the amount of people that, of course, live test the game. But pretty soon we'll make it official, and I'm feeling pretty confident tomorrow at 10 a.m. we'll have a patch. So I'm really excited about the patch and can't wait to talk about it tonight.
Excellent. Well, if you have not seen, the patch notes are live, so go to mwomerks.com, and it's the latest news. You can see what is hopefully going to be coming to the game tomorrow morning. But let's just go ahead and jump right in. We got a lot of questions, so we're going to go through these as fast as we can together. And of course, like I said, we're trying to cover as many topics as possible, keeping them fresh, trying not to repeat ourselves. So bear with us as we go. The first question is from, well, our very own Wingbreaker, who I said was helping us. His question is, being that ammo is such a concern in community warfare and is very much a limiting factor on the builds that can be run, do you think that there will ever be limited use ammo drops, points, or consumables, or anything like that?
Oh, thanks for the question. I guess, I don't want to spend, of course, the entire night saying something on the lines of like, we'll see, maybe, not sure yet. And of course, as you can imagine, that might be a fairly common thread throughout tonight because, I think everyone out there is smart enough to know that we are, we're just pushing as hard as we can right now. We pushed as hard as we could to get the patch out in time to get you guys, a community warfare beta, and it's been definitely very rewarding for us to finally see that, of course. And as you probably can't even imagine how incredible that was for the team. And I guess the good news also is that as soon as it went out, we weren't just like, woo, let's go on break. It was everyone's so committed to the product that it was like, okay, we've got another week until we go on Christmas break. We've got to fix this. Some of these things that are big issues, we've got to do as much as we can to make it as good as possible so that, while we're gone on Christmas break, we can not only enjoy the break, but also make sure that everyone has as good a time as they can during the Christmas break. So, but also, what that also kind of means is that we're not necessarily sitting on like a wealth of information right now as far as this is exactly what you can expect in the next, month or something. We've got really good ideas, but as you might imagine, it's more about right now, especially this last week, it's been about fixing stuff. So I can give you my initial thoughts on the question. My initial thoughts would be, well, I'm not sure how long we want mechs to live. Right now, he's talking about running out of ammunition, but to me, that kind of seems like you've got mechs that are defending and they're living really quite a long time, and they're destroying mechs they're trying to attack, and you want to reload with ammunition and live even longer. I might kind of go the other way with that and say, well, if that's the kind of build you took, you better have something else on your mech so that you can do as much damage as you can before you get obliterated, and then your next mech spawns, because it is kind of a battle of attrition, right? So we have to be very careful about how much we do as far as reloads, repairs of mechs that might potentially increase that battle of attrition. But then again, as I say that, I think, well, that sounds pretty cool. So I don't know, guys. We got to really fix a lot of bugs right now and settle this thing in. But I guess you might hear this a lot tonight too. It's sort of like, who knows? There's really no limit to how far we can go from this point with community warfare and Mech Warrior. So I think that's awesome news for all Mech Warrior fans.
My community warfare drop deck definitely over these 5 days has kind of transformed to one that is definitely energy dependent. But I do try and sneak in some of those ammo mechs as well. But thank you for the question, Wingbreaker. And the next question is from Shredhead. He says, will you make the community warfare game mode and maps available for private lobbies?
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. I can't give you an ETA yet, but basically I would see that a lot of units would definitely like to practice strategies. That seems obvious, right? Put attacking and get 24 of your unit together and play out your strategies, both defensive and attack strategies. That is an absolute no-brainer. It will happen. I will not commit to the week, month, or year in which it will happen, though. Just let you know, we'll try as hard as we can to get it done.
Sounds good. And I would like to point out, Phil is not with us tonight. He is sick. He's been sick for a few days. He usually runs the stream live when we do these things. So for those of you that are looking for the questions to be posted live, that's not going to happen tonight, but these will. This town hall meeting will immediately go up on SoundCloud. It'll immediately go up on YouTube for you guys to listen to. And there's, I'm going to forget his name, and I'm so sorry, but there's a community member that will basically transcribe the whole thing. The guy is amazing, the work he does. So it'll be out there, and it'll be out there quick. Sorry that the questions won't be posted live. Moving on to the next question, Seth asks, or states, I would love to get a readout of how many battles we fought on a given planet over the past 24 hours. I'm curious to know how points on a planet are assigned to a faction that fights for a planet. If you have 6 people in that group up and we win a battle, does that equal 6 people from that same faction fighting separately and winning 6 different matches?
Okay, I think I understand the question. First off, I'm going to give you some more soons, of course, trademarks. There's tons of stats that I'd love to be showing. You're right. I think when you click on a planet or hover over it, it would be really cool to see just how many battles were fought on that planet within the last combat cycle or even total. I think it would show some really, really impressive numbers. But as far as the question, I think I understand it, and that would be, I think he's got it right, meaning a lot of people are asking what tag gets displayed next to a planet, and really comes down to the number of wins that a unit has. And I believe that it even breaks down into partial teams and such. So for instance, let's say there's late at night and there's even one pug unit member all by their lonesome hitting the queue, but they have the unit tag. If you get a win, that's basically going to be 1 vote, right? So a full team of 12 might turn into 12 votes. So like all votes count, whether you're running by yourself, you guys that late at night, some of your guys are logging and you've got 2 or 4 or 6 of your members in a group still running community warfare matches. That's the number of votes you'll get. So basically every single win you get with every single member, it just all counts. So I think, correct me, Darren, if you took the question a little bit differently, but I believe that answers it, I think.
No, that answers it as far as I can tell. So thank you for the question, Seth. Next question is from Sir Edvard. He says, any thoughts on expanding invasion mode to include optional pre-objectives for the attackers to destroy, for example, air traffic control that move the defender spawn further back, supply depot that decreases defender spawn rate, turret control tower, etc.?
Well, this is getting another one of those questions that we'll probably
Mm-hmm.
get 10 different times tonight.
Right.
Um, and I think the answer is essentially yes, but it's just, what form will it take first, and then next, and then next, and then next? Because of course we're gonna grow the game as much as we can. I really do hope. And we've had a couple preliminary conversations about it, but it's difficult. I'm kind of squeezing in these conversations in the middle of really just like nonstop, working till midnight, triage, bug fixing. So right now everyone's really focused on just trying to make it solid, right? So it's less like, wow, what pie in the sky dream. So designers right now are really, unfortunately, we're not like forging ahead like what if this will be amazing. It's more we're trying to like pitch in at just fixing stuff and make it all solid and tight before we move forward. But I can tell you it's hard to keep us down for long, and we're already dreaming. And there's no doubt I want to get another game mode in as soon as possible. So even if that means like putting like a skirmish game mode in where, I'm envisioning, and everyone in my dev team now is listening, and they're just like starting to cringe. Um, basically, I would love to see. These maps are pretty big, and so there might possibly be enough room at the front of them, outside of the gates, for let's say a landing to happen, and the attackers need to have a successful landing before they're allowed to have, an invasion mode. So I don't know. Let's get your minds tripping by thinking of it like a Union class dropship coming out of the clouds and landing in one of the biggest places and dumping off just 12 mechs, and perhaps maybe this mode is 12v12 skirmish mode, and you need to stay in cover. The Union class is going to melt you, and then once it takes off, it's a brawl, a skirmish, and if the attackers are successful, then they get the opportunity of an invasion. So that's just a high-level dream, and I know all of you just wrote it down and said you promised me, Russ. I didn't promise you. I just said that would be really cool. So I'd like to get another game mode in, and kind of just make sure we expand upon community warfare and kind of double up its thickness, if you will, if that makes any sense at all, as quickly as possible. So we'll see. And then we'll talk about maps, I'm sure, in a bit, so we can talk about how we're adding a couple relatively soon, which you guys would love to hear.
Yeah, now I do want to reiterate, of course, you guys pushed out Community Warfare Beta early, allowing us to kind of essentially get in there, test it, work out some of the kinks, and the patch that's coming we'll be getting it up as operational as possible, as good as possible before everybody goes on the holiday break. So yeah, a lot of these questions are obviously stuff that's going to be early 2015, mid 2015, maybe even beyond. Just everybody out there needs to understand that Russ is going to have to kind of keep saying, soon, because all this is a wish list. And of course, we all have our individual wish list. PGI has their wish list. So let's just keep all that in mind. The next question is from Demonicky. He says, what further tweaks are planned for Community Warfare and or the general public queue that you can tell us? So this is a pretty broad question, but I guess anything significant.
Okay, well, let's take this opportunity to talk about, I guess, upcoming maps. So I can, discuss that. You guys have 2 maps right now. And of course, they're going to continue to go through changes. I think actually relatively significant changes. I think you can tell that the 2 maps that you have were put out in really quick order. They're nowhere near perfect. I would suggest they're going to get much better as we go along here. I think they're both really nice maps, and it's a real testament to the team to get it done. But Boreal is potentially the travel distance from the gates to the base is it just right? Is it too much? In Sulphur, it's quite a travel distance just to get to the gates, and then you're basically sitting on top of the base. So I think they're going to get significantly better from here on out, and we're going to try to make sure that we put everything we've learned so far into these next maps. But I can tell you that there are 2 more maps lined up. The next one will be, and most of you guys have heard about this, I think. It is a Canyon Networks themed map. I think we're internally we're calling it Gorge, and I'm sure by the time we release it, Dennis will have named it something different. But it's called Gorge right now as a working title. Cool, it's a nice texture set theme from the public matches, and we have a fourth one that is, a little earlier in the stages right now, but it's a Tourmaline Desert theme. So, as you can see, we have, at least a dozen themes now to go through, Swamp and all the others that we'll use before we get done. And, we'll try to be mindful of how we create them, not only to learn from what we've done so far and what works for community warfare, but potentially try to keep in mind that, landing type thought process where there might be enough room, outside of the gates to do something like that. All very exciting, obviously, as you can imagine. So there you go. The Gorge, the Tourmaline. Come on, someone help me. Working title.
For the bigger Tourmaline?
I got nothing. So
yeah.
Those are the ones that we have coming up right now. What do you think, Darren? What about the question? Does that answer it? Or
yeah, but I have a couple follow-ups. One is with the two new maps, and now I understand that the Canyon Network one, Gorge, has probably already received some development or is further along than the other one. But has the release of these first two community warfare maps reflected in the design of the Gorge and then the following map? Like the stuff that you're learning from us playing on it?
Yeah, almost. I mean, I would say it will. I know Paul and I were talking just today. We sat down in front of the third map. We're just like, oh no, like this needs a lot of work because, and that's all comes directly from what we've learned so far in community warfare. The perch spots where the attackers will shoot the generators being too far away, and this, that, and the other, and just everything we've learned so far. And there's more to be learned. We like, oh no, we have to do that still. So I will say this, and I'm gonna bust everyone's ass and like crack the whip. I wish I could get you a third map in January. Unfortunately, because the way the Christmas break works, we come back on like the 5th, and like the patch is like the next day, and like January 6th. I'm not sure what's going to be in that patch. I hope we'll have one. It might be like a few minor bugs. Basically, probably what we can fix Friday, and a few of us on Monday and Tuesday ends up being like a teeny tiny little patch on the 6th. So there you have it. Just breaking it to you now. Okay. But January 20th, I guess it would be a little more significant, but we're testing the January 20th patch by, the 6th, 7th. So it looks like the third community warfare match will be February 3rd. So there you go. I'm throwing it out there. That's what I'm pushing for. There you go. You can hang me, I guess, but I'm gonna be pushing hard for February 3rd. Paul, make sure you get your work done, buddy. We need to get that out February 3rd. Want to get another one in your hands as quickly as possible. The fourth one, I don't know. Roughly speaking, I hope no more than about a month after, because the way this works, that could be feasible.
All right, and then a final follow-up on the map question. The two current maps, I'm assuming we're going to expect to see some minor tweaking to that. Maybe polishing up the map, stuck spots where people, terrain's getting caught, whatever. Do you think we should expect anything in the beginning of the year as far as bigger changes to those maps, maybe rearranging things a little bit, or is there anything on the radar?
Well, there's going to be, some significant changes for even tomorrow.
Okay.
I guess tomorrow's patch, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you guys have read the patch notes by now, or probably a lot of you have. And I guess this all plays into it. One of the most significant changes is the fact that we've changed the Omega cannon to, all of us have been discussing it at length, and I'm sure I've seen plenty of tweets and a lot of people making similar suggestions. It's a pretty logical change, and that's the Omega cannon, of course, has a cover, some kind of a door that covers up its own generator. And I don't know why they don't create mechs out of the same material, because then they'd be invulnerable. I get it. Yeah. But they don't. That's a magical material that you don't get access to. But that is invulnerable, and you can't kill it, right? So now there are 3 generators scattered throughout the base. And they're fairly small, and they're fairly low hit points. They have about half the hit points of the gate generators. So they can be attacked fairly quickly. I think a couple light strike team, they can reach them, could probably take those out. And then once those 3 have been taken out, the doors to the Omega cannon open up. So you can see the generator, then go attack it and destroy it. So, related to that question are changes to the map. What we're trying to accomplish, and we're not saying we've got all the way there yet, and we probably haven't, but what we'd like to see is more attackers actually penetrating the gates, going through and making their way to the base and brawling amongst the base more frequently, right? And so we'd like them to be able to do that without having to do more of a base rush tactic. So we've done what we can so far to pull up the train in a few spots, put more blockers so that once the gates are open, I feel like the defenders are going to have to split up a little more and kind of guard each individual gate, because there are bits of terrain and blockers, more of them present than there used to be, that once they rush through the gate and kind of find one of these terrain channels, they're going to be relatively protected comparatively to now until they get up into the base. So I hope it has the effect that there's a lot less just fighting at the gates only and more mechs making their way past the gates into the channels, moving up towards the bases. And then as far as the total hit points are concerned, I did lower the hit points, as the patch notes say, of the Omega Cannon. But if you add all the 3 mini generators up, plus the Omega Cannon, you still end up at about, a plus 125 hit points, I think. Think about that for a second. Maybe it's, I think 125. So I think it's like 125 hit points more total when you include it all together. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hopeful, thoughtful, and that kind of plays into some of the changes we've made with the dropships too, if you'd like to get into that now.
Into the dropships, sure. Well, first of all, yeah, thank you. That was a good answer for all those questions. Just moving on, do you want to touch on dropships? I don't have a specific question queued up.
Yeah, Darren, just give me 1 second here. Okay, no, I'm gonna step away from the mic for just 10 seconds.
No problems at all.
I gotta feed some hungry programmers.
Understood. All right, guys, we are going to just take a really short break here. Again, Phil is sick tonight. We all wish him well. Hope you get better, buddy. He's probably listening. And again, this will be posted.
I'm back.
See, how quick was that?
Yeah, it's on. I had someone arrange to take care of it, but I heard the doorbell. I just wanted to make sure.
No worries.
Okay.
All right, so dropships. Do you want to interject with some news about dropships?
Well, just minor changes. Down out of the attackers dropship points. At this point, we have changed the loadout of the various dropships. So basically, there's a difference. They used to have all dropships had 7 medium lasers and 5 ER large lasers. Inner sphere weapons. Now the attacking dropships have 12 ER large lasers. So it'll help. I think some of the units that rush out towards the attacker spawn points are going to take more damage than they used to. We also changed it so that dropships only fire their weapons when the weapon can do full damage. So they won't be reaching out to like 1,300 meters and tickling people a little bit. They're going to wait, and if you get within the 635 meters, I guess, of an inner sphere large laser, you're going to get tagged, and you can get tagged with quite a few weapons if you're by yourself. If there's a few of you, it's going to spread out the damage a bit like it does now, but 12 ER large instead of just the 5. So, and then in the bases, though, since we are trying to promote more people using these new terrain cover channels, making their way into the base, brawling a bit more, finding these new 3 mini generators, we've changed the defensive dropships to just have their existing 7 medium lasers. And again, they only fight when they can hit for full damage, so 270 meters really. So if you happen to be in and around, right around the dropship drop point when they're dropping off friendly mechs, there is 7 medium lasers to contend with, but they won't be reaching out and tagging people all over the enemy base with their, or the main base with their large lasers. So I think the friendly drops just became a little less angry. So there we go. We're going to see how that plays out. I hope for the best.
Well, cool. That'll obviously change the dynamic. It'll be interesting to see, because I've seen already certain units establish certain tactics and so forth. So it'll be cool to see how the changes to the map and the dropships change the dynamics of the matches. We'll move on to the next question. It is from Artur Valor. He says, will you be resetting the Community Warfare Innersphere map once the beta is over? And how long do you think will be in beta anyway? I think doesn't know exactly how things work, but you can reiterate.
What was the very first part of that question?
Well, whether the community, are you guys going to reset the Community Innersphere map at all on any, kind of regular basis, or is it just going to be ongoing dynamic, whatever happens with the player population?
Yeah, that's a good question.
He's asking if you'll reset it after beta.
Yeah, I mean, I would say entering beta, I kind of lean towards the fact that we wouldn't reset it. Seeing now that we're a week in and seeing still just watching the clans kind of quickly, dip down towards Terra, and there's quite a few plans that have already changed hands. It makes me start to wonder if we might want to reset it at beta. So I guess I would say I don't know at this point. I don't know for sure. I think we'll take probably quite a bit of directions from our players. I'm sure there's a lot of them that might want to call it kind of go fresh when beta drops. Others won't. So I can't answer that right now. Mm-hmm. I think I'm still open to being swayed one way or the other, depending. And I think the rest of his questions was...
just how long you think beta will last?
How long? Yeah, I don't know for sure. I really hope it doesn't last any longer than, the first half of 2015. I would like to see, the summer of 2015 being more of an official launch of Community Warfare. But I don't know. I'm sorry. Ask me in January town hall, and I might have a better answer for you.
What are the targets for calling it official or whatever? What are the what do you hope?
Yeah, I don't know if we know yet. I think we have to have, obviously, there's a lot of bug fixing left to do, but we want to add at least a significant amount of more depth to it. We'd like to add definitely some more game modes, a little more depth to the, the invasion process, and at what point is it invasion, what point is it something else, and how do you go about taking over planets should be, different than it is currently. And of course, a lot of people talk about logistics. I think we're in favor of at least some logistics that really add important aspects to the game. So I don't think we know right now. And I know that's a dangerous thing because, I'm sure we'll add to Community Warfare indefinitely. So it's almost like when an online game like this, I think we all understand that the tag beta is kind of, it doesn't serve quite the purpose that it does traditionally, right, for traditional games, because we're still adding features like every 2 weeks, every month to MechWarrior Online, yeah. Right? It's perpetual development, but we're saying we're not in beta yet. Theoretically, you could be in beta indefinitely. So, right. I guess now it's about hitting sort of a minimum target and saying, okay, that's enough features to say we're launched. And usually they're related to marketing milestones of saying, well, we'd like to go out in Steam in 2015, and perhaps we'd like to go out in Steam before the big summer sales. So perhaps that's our target, to sort of be ready for Steam and also have Community Warfare out of beta. So there's some very loose thinking, by myself, with kind of my business lens on, and that's about as good as I can do for you right now.
Okay, and real quick, I do want to point out that we're not talking about MechWarrior Online beta. We're talking about Community Warfare beta. There is a difference. Now, the next question is from, I want to say, On1M or Onem or whatever, sorry. And his question is, why is there no queue or lobby tab that says how many people are in the queue for a planet? This would let people know roughly how long the wait time will be. I want to expand on that, though, because there's a lot of just questions flying left and right in terms of basically the queue times, both solo dropping, less than 12 groups, and 12 mans. Do you want to expand on that as far as just queue times in general and what the purpose of Community Warfare is, as opposed to random battles, single player drops, dropping solo queue, group queue, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if you've read the patch notes, there are some, I think, fairly significant improvements to help people with those aspects. But maybe I can shed some light on exactly how it works right now. Essentially, a 12-man unit, they have pretty good times right now. I mean, they're essentially, if a 12-man unit clicks on a planet and clicks attack or defend, they're guaranteed to get a match. They might, in the worst case situation, get an auto win type thing because there isn't attackers or defenders on the other side, but they are guaranteed to be active, to play, and to get a match. And then it breaks down from there. But I think everyone can understand that that was our first initial target. It's like, okay, this is a hardcore feature, and I think the vast majority of our listeners here, most of them are saying that's what they wanted, right? They're saying, give us something more than the pub queue, give us something more hardcore. And so that was our mandate, we felt, from the player base to create that. So we did. And so it's no, I guess, surprise that it's the most suited right now to units, large units, and 12-man unit groups. So then as you break down from there and you get into smaller size groups, your wait time can get more significant. And there's a lot of stuff in your current build that is definitely confusing, in meaning you could go to a planet and say attack, for instance, and sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there as a solo player for 25 minutes or more. People have talked about an hour, and I believe them. But the confusing thing is, it doesn't mean that there's nothing happening on the planet. In fact, there's probably been dozens and dozens and dozens of matches that have kicked off on that planet while they've been waiting. But what's happening is, I wrote a post about this, but I'll restate it here. The matchmaker for each is separate for each planet. And there can be multiple matches going off on the planet at the same time. In fact, there can probably be, I'm not sure what the mathematical limit is, but it could be as many as 60, I would say, going off at the exact same time in a perfect situation. And the reason that works that way is that the matchmaker says, okay, I'm putting together strike teams, 12-man strike teams, at both on the attack side and the defense side. So if you show up as a 12-man unit, you're automatically in a strike team. That's why you automatically know you're going to get into queue and you're going to wait your turn, you're going to get a match. Whether a full-on match or an automatic win, you're going to fight. But those that aren't in 12-man units, the matchmaker's doing the classic Tetris game of putting together these pieces of the puzzle. So if you have like a 9-man unit or a 7-man group, things get a little bit tough. As a solo player, you might be sitting there in the queue, and 12-man unit after 12-man unit after 12-man unit just keeps passing you by and just launching into community warfare. And you're sitting there, and you don't know right now that in the current build that you guys have that there's 3 solo players, a group of 3 and a group of 4 sitting in there, and then the group of 4 leaves, and then another solo guy comes in. But bottom line is, the 12-mans just keep passing you by, the 12-man strike teams, and you haven't quite been able to form a 12-man strike team in that queue yet. In fact, maybe even a few larger groups came in, but they just didn't quite fit the puzzle. And that's kind of the trade-off again, kind of like the conversation we've had about the group queue, of having every group size being valid from 2 to 12. It creates a lot of jigsaw puzzle pieces, and it creates more situations where they just don't fit together. But that's the world we live in right now, and giving our players every group size. So that's why it's a pretty, as someone said in the chat a minute ago, the pug life is a tough life. It's hard in community warfare. You can definitely sit there a while. Here's what's coming in the patch tomorrow. There's a couple changes I think are fairly significant. No, unfortunately, we haven't been able to change it so that, for instance, you can group with any of your faction members. That's something that was a little too in-depth for us to take before the Christmas break. So you still can only group with your unit members. And there's no global chat or anything like that. Those things are in discussion, and again, there just was no time prior to Christmas break. Mm-hmm. But what we were able to do is say, okay, first off, on the Innistrad map, on the Planet Finder window, When you look at the Planet Finder window, you're going to see real player numbers there. You'll see the real number of players on the attacker side and real number of players on the defender side. Um, and that's for all 35 planets that are contested. So on a busy weekend, you might see, 54 attackers and 48 defenders. And you'll look at that and say, well, okay, those are busy planets. Um, and you might even look at the number of, let's say, for instance, you guys are smart people. You look at the number of attackers, and you say that was 47. Well, 47 is not 48, right? So it's not even 12. You know that one member jumping in there on the attacker side is probably going to finish off a 12-man group. So you jump in there on the attacker side, you're going to probably be likely to find a match. But in general, if you were to jump in on the busy planets, there's a little more information there for you as the player. If you are in the middle of the night and you see the defender side at 0, you're probably in for pretty tough sledding. So you might not want to jump in that area. So we've managed to do that. That should help a fair bit. And then also once you click attack and defend, we've added another piece in there where, and because we know our player base pretty well and we know what you guys love to do, we've actually called this ghost players. I'm sure you guys will appreciate that. Essentially, the 12-man team thing that's sitting there, and right now it's just like empty, right, all the time until all of a sudden, bam, your 12-man shows up. So all you guys that play nothing but 12-mans, you don't really know what I'm talking about. But everyone that's playing in like small groups or solo, they know. They just sit there and the thing's empty. Well, now it's going to actually fill up. So if there's like 9 of you in there, like 3 solo and a group of 4 and a group of 2, you're gonna see like 9 spots filled up there in that thing. But it'll say pending player on it. That's where the ghost player thing comes from, because essentially the matchmaker is only returning a total number. It's saying, well, there's 9 in here. There's 9 people in the pre-queue. So basically, the 9 players show up in the pre-queue, and well, shit, there's 9 here. That's probably worth hanging out. We just need like 1 more group of 3 to show up, or 3 more pugs, and we're good. So as you see, I think that's going to be valuable for players. You're going to see that change in real time. That's going to provide a lot more information for players to understand exactly what's going on there. And the patch notes mentioned how we will be in the new year also adding sort of a graph mentality in there, so you can see, well, not only do I know there's 9 people in here, I know that it's a 3 pugs, a group of 4, and a group of 2. And so as you can imagine, in a separate situation, if you see 3 groups of 8 in there, you might say, oh, well, if you're one of those groups of 8, you're going to say, all we have to do is we could make the choice, the 8 of us, to split our group into 2 groups of 4, and we know we're going to get a match, because it's going to make 12. So for the time being, we're trying to provide our players with as much information as they can so they can make the best decisions possible to get matches throughout the Christmas break. And then, of course, we'll just continue to make more improvements as we go along here to the queue and everything. So I think that's fairly significant. There's for the first time ever, there's like real player numbers being shown. Those are, each planet's going to display real player numbers, so all of you guys can get out your calculators and add them all up and say, well, geez, if there's this many here, that means this, and we're done. Right. Shut it down. It's over.
Game's dead.
So there you go. I hope that helps somewhat, and it's going to be a pretty exciting patch, actually.
Well, it's been interesting. I've been dropping with my unit and some buddies, and I can tell just from talking to a lot of people in the community, some people are having an easier time with the matchmaking. They've figured something out, and some people are having more of a difficult time. I think it will be nice, especially over the first few months of the year, as things get fine-tuned, and see that whole matchmaking process develop and get better. I've been getting in a lot of matches, having a lot of fun, and I want to see other people experience the same thing and have that good time. So thank you for that question, Owen. And then there was a few people in chat as well live that asked similar questions. The next question is from our own Catrikel. He says, we recently have seen incentives go to factions that are not performing well or are maybe underpopulated. And he wants to know if we'll ever see the same incentives being added for dropping lighter into battle. So basically, if you bring a subpar drop deck or under ton or whatever, would it possibly increase your payouts, and then also to go a little bit further on that question of adjusting incentives. Will that ever be something that maybe will be automated? So as player populations grow or shrink during different times of the day, incentives change?
Well, on the first part of his question, I'm sorry, I'm just going to have to throw that up and say yes, someday, hopefully, probably, that sounds cool. On the rest of it, I think we're kind of close as far as adjusting rewards. So, of course, from the designer side of things, we love to have as many adjustable CVARs and, as we call them with CryEngine, to be able to adjust the game in real time without having to bring the game down for a patch. And so we can do some of the things like that. Like right now, for instance, I could change the number of wins from 11 to 15. So, or the number of zones, I should say, from 11 to 15. And right now, you have to have 6 of 11 to flip. And if I went to 15, then you'd have to have, 8? Right? You'd have to have 8 zones to flip it. And some of that's changed with the patch, of course. We've gone to a percentage indicator and a much better indication of what zone you're actually fighting for. So that's also improved quite a bit. But as an example, it can change the number of zones in real time. Might create a bug because it might overlap some of the UI. Some of it's not tested. But you mentioned as far as the other things I can change in real time is the amount of rewards. So when we changed the rewards, we actually went 100% increase for Lao, Smoke Jaguar, right? And then we gave a small 25% increase to Jade Falcon. That was purely based on population levels. Mm-hmm. We basically set kind of a minimum bar based on the others and said, well, if they don't have this much, let's give an increase. And so we can do some of that in real time. And we did discuss together as a designer group saying, could the engineers quickly write a routine to just monitor population levels and say, these are the thresholds. And when you cross these thresholds, we're just going to change in real time the rewards. So that seems logical that we'd end up with something like that eventually. Otherwise, we'd be just having to do it manually. Each week maybe we'd assess and just say, well, let's change the rewards now based on how the population's shifted.
Excellent. That sounds good. Road Beer is in chat. Hi, Road Beer. Didn't like that we asked an NGNG crew question. Just so you guys all know, everybody that asked questions as they were submitted, we put them on here. We didn't play favorites to anybody. But Road Beer, I see you, and I'm going to ask one of your questions. I think you already touched on one of his, which is faction-based grouping rather than just solely unit-based grouping, right? Is there anything you want to expand on?
Well, yeah, I guess I will just say I did mention that, and I said to Road Beer on Twitter that it'd take a Christmas miracle to get it done in time before the break, and unfortunately, Santa Claus has not been good to us or whoever gives out Christmas miracles. It's not going to happen before Christmas, but I mean, from our perspective internally, that's an absolute. It's a must. We got to have it. We got to do it. I won't give it an ETA here again, but we definitely want to make it so you can group with your faction members. So it's going to happen, right, Brian? Brian just sneaked in. It's going to happen, he said.
But that totally applies to what we were just talking about as far as queue times, right? I mean, all of a sudden, with entire factions being able to group, we'll get more 12-man, so more people in the queue, and that'll help with the overall queue, wouldn't you think?
Well, I think it's going to help with, I mean, it's another one of those things that's going to help. I mean, obviously, people can kind of realize that along with grouping with your faction members, we have to have some other way of just sort of seeing them, right? Like, where are those, 24 solo pugs that you can go to and try to invite into your group? So it probably has to go hand in hand with some other method of seeing them. And, the first thing that pops up in mind is global chat. I don't know if global chat will happen because there's some fairly legitimate technical concerns when you have that many players in some kind of global chat, and not only like the kind of garbage that can get spewed, but just how careful you have to be with, flooding, a chat log like that. So I think there's a lot of thinking to do there, but some other way of just, I see you pugs, I'm going to invite you, to my group. But at any rate, that would probably come as a secondary phase. The first phase is just flat out being able to invite other members of your faction. So the other main unit, the other 2 or 3 main units in your faction, and it's late at night, and a lot of their members are logging too, so you can, can invite them into your groups and combine. In fact, Paul's got a cool idea for a merge group option that we haven't run past the engineers yet to get the technical assessment, but basically, potentially at the end of the match, at the end of round screen, you can just sort of choose to merge groups or something, and I just caused some heart attacks among the office. But basically, we're thinking about you guys. Definitely got to be able to group with your faction members for sure.
Yeah, that'll be much appreciated. Somebody said that Santa is owned by Harmony Gold, so that would explain a lot. Thank you, Beer, for your question. We'll get to some of your other questions later. Next question is from Keith Jr. He says, community warfare has shown how important team coordination can be. When can we expect tools that will allow solo players to communicate better with their teammates? And I would assume that means like command wheel or VoIP.
Yeah, we spent some time talking about those two again tonight. Basically, that's going to be top of the mind come January, and we got to figure out how we can do it. But I guess what I'm saying is, I can't give an ETA yet, but basically command wheel and VoIP. Those are really our only 2 options, right? I mean, if you want to direct solo pugs and whatnot, you got to be able to talk to them, and you have to be able to talk to them in one of 2 ways. You need to either send some commands through some kind of command wheel system that'll actually spew into the chat window of some kind, or even be able to, talk to them with your voice. So same answer as before. It's just now that Community Warfare is shipped, I hope like heck we can give it some attention in the new year and try to implement those 2 features.
Excellent. Just moving down the document. Let's see. The next question is from J35. He says, will we see additional in-match contextual rewards for attackers like turret kill assist, gate generator kill assist, base gun generator kill assist, etc.?
Well, those rewards are a little bit behind. You guys know we did Rewards 2.0 not so long ago. I thought it was a great addition to the game. I think everyone really enjoyed them. We have an update to that system. So essentially, it's going to update it. We updated it with a lot of stuff people were talking about, like meaning, the mech that tanked the most damage during the match, and ECM rewards, and just a whole other, I guess, improvement addition on top of Rewards 2.0, but still kind of based on public matches. So I want to get all those in. Once those are in, I think we can look at creating new community warfare specific rewards. But are they? Then you guys will be making too much money after that, though, right? I mean, I know a lot of you guys have been. I know a lot of you guys have been saying like, Russ, nerf the C-bills. It's too much. I'm making too much. Yeah.
So many C-bills were spent. I know this is my situation with the modules. I typically was moving my same set of modules from mech to mech, and then with these drop decks, obviously people had to spend a few C-bills to get multiple mechs set up. But speaking of drop decks, J35 has another question, which I think is pretty significant because I kind of ran into this as well. He said, can you add the Mech Labs mech loadouts pop-up, when you mouse over a mech, to the Dropship configuration screen when you're selecting your four mechs, so that you can mouse over it and their portraits there and see that you have the right mech with the right loadout, etc.?
Cool question. I don't know if I can answer that right now.
It's a UI
obviously,
thing.
Yeah, Dropship functionality right now is obviously at a bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
The interface for creating your drop deck is exactly bare minimum, and just expect it to get better from there. I guess that's all I can say. It's a bare minimum functionality right now where you click on a mech and it kind of pops and snaps around, and it's not that great, but it works. Fill out your drop deck and go fight. Fight.
for your factions. All right, the next question is a long one. It is from Spiral Face. Let's see here. He is asking, what are you guys seeing in relation to faction population size, success versus number of active large group in community warfare? As a Ghost Bear, I've found when dropping against a larger population faction like Kurita, there's a better chance of running into large pub groups over the many coordinated units in the smaller factions like the FRR. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Let's do the. Yeah, I mean, basically, just player populations, how that is affecting community warfare.
Yeah, I can jump on that. I mean, there's a lot of factions with pretty big populations, I guess I'll say. If I set like sort of a minimum, category in my mind of like at least a few thousand players, there's quite a few factions that meet that criteria. I mean, there's Wolf and Ghost Bear, Steiner and Davian certainly, Kurita as well, Merrick, just a little smaller than the other bigger ones, but they meet that criteria too. So really just the only smaller ones, the ones that we adjusted, I mean, is really Lao, Jade Falcon, and Smoke Jaguar. Smoke Jaguar being the smallest, but just by a hair. I mean, those three are not too far apart, within a couple hundred of each other, really. So I guess the main thing we're seeing, though, is, and we're definitely concerned about it, is that some of it's by design and kind of the way we wanted it, but once you see it happening in real time, it becomes more of a concern, and that's, larger populations just having the advantage, mostly due to sort of the auto-win functionality. It's a very complex design, and there was a lot of concerns when we were talking about it of, units attacking until they get 6 zones and then just stop attacking and then you win, right? So we have to design the functionality of attacker being able to counterattack and be able to push back before the time ran out and to be able to push back as much as it can. So all of it kind of adds together where large populations can, at the moment, flood the queue and, just attack, or counterattack, and there's not much that a lower population can do about it. The only thing that we have to stop that at the moment is basically an automatic win has a 5-minute countdown. So I think I said this before, but I think I said the theoretical maximum is 60 matches on a planet. The reason I say that is if there's plenty of people on both sides, you only wait 60 seconds, then you kick off. So essentially it'll kick off a match on that planet every 60 seconds if there's lots of players involved. If you're at a particular point in time where one side or the other is exhausted, it waits 5 minutes. And if you see in the patch notes, that's one thing that we've actually adjusted. It's the only tool that we have at the moment to deal with the auto wins, is we set the auto win cooldown timer, or the wait time, I guess you'd say, at 10 minutes. So basically, it should help the lower population factions keep up with the higher population players. It comes with some trade-offs, but it's the best we can do at the very moment. So I think a lower population faction after the patch should feel a little better about themselves, because I think if they can potentially even run 4, let's say, 3, 4 non-stop 12-mans, they should stand a good chance, if they have a good winning ratio, of keeping up with the ability to flood the queue. So I think that answers your question, but I got a little sidetracked. That's kind of how the dynamics are playing out with population size right now. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's something to consider would be to show a pie graph somewhere, potentially about just showing percentages of 100% where the factions are at the moment. So maybe that would kind of encourage people to kind of even things out a bit. You never know how players will behave, though. Maybe they'll just flood to the bigger one. It's tough to say. So at the moment, I've given you the information you need, really, it seems like. And then, of course, there's the other notion of North America versus Europe and the other time zones. Right now, there's definitely a bias towards North America. And, if we're going to get a feature out on time and, just being based here and everything, it's logical that we would do that, of course. but we'd like to figure out something in the new year to make it a little more fair for kind of a worldwide player base. And I don't know yet. There's absolutely no commitment to what we'll do. One idea is to potentially create the battle phase slightly longer than 24 hours so that over the course of a week or whatever, it kind of rotates slowly through all the time zones. So once in a week, everybody kind of has the final push. That's just one thought. That's just one idea. I'm sure the European players would love that. Um, we'll let you know as soon as we know a little bit more, but that's kind of all I have at the moment as far as population base, faction sizes, and how it's kind of playing out in community warfare right now.
And of course, there's, things that the players can do, politics, alliances, etc., teaming up on the big bullies. But we'll move on to the next one. The next question is from Mace. He says, lately this year, MWO has brought FPS issues to gamers at random, regardless of PC specs. In Training Grounds, my frame rates are in the 90s, varied on the map, but during matchmaking, it can drop as low as 12. HUD and particles seem to be the biggest culprits to FPS drops. And basically, he just wants to know if there's going to be any optimizations coming or things that you can let him know along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, there has been a lot of optimizations. I think you're going to get different results from different players. For myself, I've noticed what I feel is faster frame rates in public matches since Community Warfare came out, because during the development of Community Warfare, we did a lot of optimizations because we knew we were going to have to be loading upwards of 96 megs into memory and try to make dropship mode work. So that kind of came with a lot of optimizations that made their way into public queue. So for myself, which is running on a really nice PC at work, I definitely seem to see faster frame rates in the regular pub matches. Community Warfare still managed to come out, of course, a little bit slower, or even a fair bit slower at the very beginning. I'll even use the word significantly slower. So one of the first things that we changed, of course, was the dead mechs. I mean, mechs are expensive, and the public matches have a total of 24 mechs, dead or alive, combined. Whereas Community Warfare initially had up to 24 dead mechs plus 24 living, which was changed pretty quickly, and that was already a significant, 15 frames per second increase for most people. And since then, for this patch tomorrow, you will see other both memory, CPU time, just all sorts of optimizations. I don't know what to expect yet from the average player, but everybody should see at least some kind of frame rate increase. Some may even see fairly significant frame rate increases. The memory increases we've also worked really hard to increase the memory, to get back memory. We've done a number of things. So, and one, of course, included is a 64-bit client. So even though we've tried to improve the memory consumption significantly, so 32-bit players should be, I hope, quite significantly better after tomorrow's patch, we also do have the option for the 64-bit experimental release at this point, but I think so far in testing we've had very few people have issues with it, so I'm expecting that it'll work quite well for most players. And that, of course, if you know much about just the way Windows and DX9 and DX11 work, is 64-bit is just a million times better with its memory management. So if you can run 64-bit, go ahead and do it, because it basically means an end to some of the memory issues that the 32-bit client has. So I hope that helps a bit and tells everybody what's coming.
Excellent. Thank you for your question, Mace. Now, guys, we are going to take a short bio and snack and drink break. If you want to grab some popcorn and soda or go to the bathroom, whatever, we're going to take a short break. Russ, we will join you again in maybe 5, 10?
Sounds good.
All right. Be right back, guys. All right, guys, we are back. This is Darren, aka Bombadil from No Guts No Galaxy, and I'm here with Russ Bullock from Piranha Games PGI, makers of MechWarrior Online. This town hall is focusing primarily on community warfare beta tonight. If we have the time, towards the end, we'll talk about some other topics, maybe a little bit in the future of MWO. We'll see. Quick thank you to everybody that's helping out: Brandon, Catrikel, Wingbreaker, Deadfire, and the rest of the NGNG crew. Thank you, guys. And of course, thank you to all of you out there. We totally appreciate you showing up and participating and submitting questions. We've got a lot of questions via the forums and Reddit and live, so we're trying to get to as many of them as we can, you know, and as long as we can keep Russ. So if we don't get to your question, we apologize. It's nothing personal. Hopefully in the next town hall we can get to it. Also, the chat is moderated, so please keep it civil and respectful. We appreciate that. And Russ, you back? You ready to jump right in?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Next question is from Keycat. And Keycat asks, are there any plans to make gates less of a free objective? Some way to make them more defensible? No. All right.
Just kidding.
Look what happens when you get some food in you.
More defensible. Gates? Oh, boy, I don't know.
Or is it only intended to be an early warning? Have you considered moving up spawn points after the gates are captured so that attackers are less strung out? Or is this even possible? That's the end of Keycat's question.
Well, at the moment, as you can imagine, it's a little more... Right now, our minds are a little bit more towards how do we allow the attackers more frequently to open the gate and actually penetrate the gate and, you know, move up towards the base and, you know, get into the base and, you know, attack without full-on Zerg tactics. So I don't know. I think the gates, there's no doubt right now it feels like it's not like it's an epic endeavor to open the gate. Right now it's really more about it's more of an early warning. I guess that's fair. And, you know, I don't want to undermine it too much because although someone might say, well, it doesn't really mean a lot. Well, sure, it doesn't if you have jump jets, but you're not getting your direwolves and king crabs and the big mechs through unless the gate's opened. So it does serve a fairly significant purpose still in that regard. So I'm not sure how it will evolve from here, but I guess I'll just answer that to say our minds aren't quite on that yet. Right now it's really more focused around how do we make it so the attackers without just pure Zerg tactics can open those gates and, you know, effectively not get jammed up there but actually make their way, you know, into channels, protected channels, and, you know, make their way up towards the base. I think our end goal is that, you know, defenders should definitely have the advantage, and they always will, but the attackers should, you know, with a higher skill level and a better tactic, be able to have a good opportunity of winning and fighting amongst the base rather than just, you know, no chance unless they start to, like, Zerg rush. So, as you can tell, it's an ongoing process. I think tomorrow's changes, I hope, will have a significant impact in that regard, but we'll just keep building from there.
Sounds good. Thank you for the question, Keycat. Just scanning through now, guys. Keep in mind that a lot of these questions kind of overlap, so I'm, you know, trying to sort through and get fresh questions and things that haven't been touched on. The next one is from Tychorius Davion. He says, referencing the loyalty reward set out by the PDF document that you showed everyone, it was full of what seems like one-time rewards which do not ensure loyalty. Will you or are you ever going to add loyalty rewards that ensure longevity? He has some examples or whatever, but yeah, you get the point.
Yeah, good question. I just say yes. Yes.
Yes, there are.
Of course we will.
That's going to develop further.
I think we said that pretty clearly in our initial patch announcements that one of our top priorities in the new year is to first off just kind of fix up what we consider to sort of the minimum launch quality loyalty points. So, you know, significantly more. Right now you're just getting basically you hit a tier and you get some C-bills. But we're going to fix that. We're going to retroactively give you a significant amount of items. You saw the PDF. It's like everything from titles that will actually work in game right? I think that's pretty significant right there, actually.
Hmm.
And then CBIL is a combination of GXP and MC, even MC, right? Um, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we can add depth on that from there. Where we go once that is all fixed up and your titles work in game and you're getting all those rewards from the PDF, where we go from there, I don't know yet. So obviously, the question says, give us more reasons. So we'll be looking for more reasons and trying to give you those reasons.
So this could basically, I mean, community feedback could affect that and so forth. So if people have ideas, get them to PGI. Okay, again, just kind of scanning through. The next one's from ArcSight. He says, what happened to mercenaries in community warfare? Could you just maybe just talk about mercenaries and their role now and what their role could be or would be in the future?
Well, I'm not going to probably be able to give
The answer you want.
great peace and comfort to all, mercenary lovers at the moment. Here's the dilemma. I mean, even if, all the people that love lore and canon and everything else, and they love their Grey Death Legion and Wolf Dragoons or whatever, bottom line is they always fought for one of the great houses, right? So a lot of it's pretty much semantics at this point. I hope people take that the right way, meaning, you know, Grey Death Legion always fought for. I'm going to get crushed here if I get something wrong, but I'm just going to go for it.
For a particular house.
Yeah, for a particular house. And a lot of them fought for that house indefinitely. Like, right, the entire time they ever existed, they fought for that house. Which really is the exact same thing as what you're playing out right now as saying, I'm accepting, a permanent contract for House Davian, for instance. Now, the only real difference is, I suppose, your unit name just has a House Davian flag next to it, not your particular mercenary unit flag. So it might be so simple on the one hand as saying, okay, I'll let you portray both your custom mercenary unit flag and your current house that you're affiliated with. Because I certainly don't think we're going to get to a point where like a mercenary unit has their own area of the map, like they're taking over the map. I think probably it's always going to be about the 6 inner sphere factions, the 4 current clan ones, and the clan ones that are to come to the future, and they're the ones that actually have the actual area on the map. So there's a few solutions that we can think of. It's something we'll continue to think of, but I also would kind of I guess ask the players to think about it and let us know what they truly want when thinking about it from the perspective that I just laid out. I suppose some of the larger factions, or some of the larger, most well-known mercenary units potentially could be joinable factions, but at the same time, that joinable faction will be aligned to one of the great houses and or clans, etc., and the map will still be owned by that great house. So that's why I guess in the end we did what we did, because a lot of the romanticism around the mercenary units, and I share it with you. I mean, I read the Grey Death Legion stuff. That was one of the main book series that got me hooked on BattleTech and including the Warrior Trilogy and various things. So that one in particular about the Grey Death Legion is dear to most of our hearts. But is it Davian? Someone correct me. They fought for Davian the whole time, did they not?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, you can beat Grey Death Legion, but really all your fighting is still going to end up in the hands of Davian. So that's something I think we need to wrap our heads around and come up with something kind of significant and not just semantics in order for us to change. And there's probably some really great ideas out there, but as you can imagine, we're not sitting there and just staying in the boardroom until 4 a.m. until we come up with a great idea right now, because we're fixing bugs and we're making sure it's tight and solid and you guys can fight for these 10 factions. And I understand there's a lot of desire for something more on the mercenary merc kind of side of things, but I think we have to find out exactly what that is or should be before we jump into it.
Excuse me. Coffee. Anyway, yeah, there's definitely a lot of mercenaries out there that will be interested in that. I do want to point out real quick, guys, people are asking, you haven't got to my question yet. We have 17 pages of questions with about 15 to 20 questions per page, and I've literally gotten through 2 of them. So I'm doing my best to scan through right now, find new, fresh stuff, and get to as many of you as I can. Again, my apologies if we don't get to you, but we're doing our best. Next question is from Skyhawk, and he actually has a question that I can answer real quick and move on to one of his other questions. He said, are you planning on some kind of war news or something regular, like the vlog, like a weekly map change update, etc., or do you want to let the player base, bring that content forward? If some of you haven't noticed, there is now a weekly update, or I'm sorry, weekend update video that's going up. We have the vlog and we have the weekend update, and I'm currently working with Carl and some other people to figure out a way to do essentially a map update type thing, so we can see how community warfare is developing each week. So we will be implementing something similar to that. We're working out the best way to present that to you, and I'm sure there's other people. There's just some API info released that already I'm seeing players use. So things along those lines will be coming both from PGI and the player base, I'm sure. But to get to one of Skyhawk's questions, he says, is there any chance in the near, and he means within 3-4 months or whatever future, we can see a real planet map with environmental details and just more details before they drop, so they can choose, the exact map mech that they want for that battle. So I guess to expand, it would just be: is there going to be more information given on the pre-battle screens for people to better choose what mechs they want?
I'm afraid at this moment in time, I do not know. That sounds logical, and you've got a fair amount of time there. I mean, at least a minute, I guess, in the quickest of scenarios to change out your drop deck. And I've heard a lot of people mention, multiple drop deck loadouts. So all things are possible with time. I think it's always going to come down to a balance of priorities, and some people might also tell me, hey, I'm fine with having one drop deck and one drop deck only, as long as you're working on a brand new mech lab interface. So those are the things we deal with and try to prioritize as best we can.
Sounds good. Now, you have an announcement or something you want to say? Is that correct?
Oh, no, I just
move on to the next one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, the next one is, are there any planned updates to add the sorting of community warfare statistics via JavaScript to the profile stats web pages?
I don't know. I know that Fox worked basically really hard to get you guys the API for the map. I think that's really cool. I think he's more than willing and very anxious and excited to help get as many API type tools out to you guys so that you can create whatever it is your heart desires. So, I don't know. We'll have to touch on that again the new year. What was the specific request there, Darren?
Well, I think I can expand a little bit, and just in terms of stats, like he's wanting to just know if there's going to be more community warfare stats add to the profile and stats web pages on MWOmercs.com. But I know currently stats aren't being kept for community warfare, right? If you go to your stats on the website, that's only solo queue and group queue at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's definitely in order to get things out in time, we had to leave some stats behind, and we had to make a few shortcuts, especially when it came to just all the stats. Even also, if you go into a match with, say, one hero mech, we had to do some trickery, I suppose. Whereas if you had one hero mech of the 4, we essentially just gave you a 30% CPO bonus across, 25% of your rewards and a few things along that line, including champion mechs and even the loyalty point bonus Phoenix mechs. Right now, your XP is chassis specific, but the C-bills and loyalty points are not. And that's just based on the sheer amount of stat calls that we have to send to the database that we just had to work through, that we just need time to work through. So I'd have to check in with some of the engineers when it came to the exact timing of, when full community warfare stats would correctly report to the web page and in all manners.
Sounds good. The next question is from Roadbeer. He says, do you see community warfare being taken off the rails? Meaning, will they ever be able to decide which planets they attack along their border? Short of that, possibly adding more attackable planets along the border so they can make more strategic decisions on who to attack, when to attack, etc. Follow up, allowing planets along multiple borders to be attacked by multiple forces. An example being the current Merrick-Liao truce would allow us to simultaneously attack a Davion planet. So freedom of choice as far as attacks.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to answer that. I think as some people realize now, with a game like this, with thousands of players online at the same time, and even though still that's a lot of players, and when you have like 3,000 planets or whatever it is, it's just too many, right? We had to limit it in some fashion. So I think there's a possibility, though, that potentially all that matters to us from a matchmaking or a technical standpoint is that there's some type of a limit on the contested planet, so that we're funneling the player base into a particular planet. Because right now at any given time there's still 35 planets up for contention. So that's still a lot, right? I mean, that would take significant player counts to fill up more than that, with enough players to have multiple matches going off on each one. So basically, I think there is a chance where maybe there could be a process put in place where the players decide what that one planet is. So, like, what I mean by one is, right now there's one planet up for contention on each border of each faction. So Davian ends up with like 5 and 5 to defend and 5 to attack, because they border Kyrda, Steiner, Merrick, Lao, Razalog. I think that's correct. Close enough. So there's a lot of plans to attack and defend, and some factions right now, like for instance, Lao just borders Merrick and Davian. So there's one to protect and one to attack on each side. So potentially there's a time in the future where some process is put in place where the players, through some process, determine what that planet is that they attack. So maybe the one they defend becomes a surprise because the opposing faction gets to decide it. I think that would be very interesting, very cool, and it really wouldn't. As long as we came up with a process for how that works, it shouldn't put any more pressure on the game itself. So I think that could work. And since that was a question from Road Beer, I'm going to toss out a little something to him. That's I want Road Beer, if he's still listening right now, to log in and check your account, look at your cockpit items. You might see a little gift that I gave you here tonight. So if you're having to look at it, maybe just announce in the chat what maybe you saw in your cockpit items.
Very cool. I know what it is. All right. Moving on to the next question, and I hope we hear from you, Robier. The next question is from Red Eagle 86, and basically it's talking about logistics and community warfare, and wants to know if and when there might be more logistics added. Now, that's a very general question. Logistics, what is that? It could be anything, I'm assuming, from like unit drop ships, customizing things, troop deployment, I don't know, contracts, anything. Will there be more layers added to the community warfare process that gives the logistical-minded people happiness?
Well, I think let's just put kind of a general answer out there. Again, we've answered this before, but I get it. More depth, more logistical awareness. I mean, the answer is yes. Let's add more. I think we're going to be cautious, though, about it. I'm not interested in necessarily making Mech Online Community Warfare only appeal to like your 300 of the most hardcore Battletech fans on planet Earth, right? We still need to make it appeal to a bigger group than that. But I think, having said that, I think we can still add some depth and logistical stuff and still achieve that. So yes,
Cool.
there you go.
That's a good answer. I like yes. All right. Next question is from Mike Pantera. He wants to know about, well, a few people have asked this, like a browser-based inner sphere map that updates, live, maybe something like an app for smartphones or whatever. Basically, for the people that are absolutely addicted to the game and want to be checking in even while they're at work or picking up the kids. Any comments on that?
Well, we released the API, and I'm positive some people in the community will probably come up with something pretty short order. But there is some stuff we have internally. It's not part of our official work pipeline. We just haven't worked it in. It's not going to find priority like that. But there's a couple people at the office that I think have enough vested interest and excitement in making something happen that I'm relatively confident something will. And what I mean by that is, of course, we'd love to have a link on the web page that just takes you to essentially a representation of the map in the sphere at that given moment, like you would have if you were in the client. So at the very least, someone's at work or whatever, and they can open up a web page and see the current wins and losses or whatever for particular planets, so they can keep up what's going on. So when they get home, they gotta jump on a particular planet or whatnot.
Well, I already know that. I mean, first of all, this community has some of the most amazingly talented people of any community I've ever been in as far as gaming communities, whether that's artists or programmers or anything. But I've already seen people announcing, the apps that they're working on or the web pages. They've even posted some that show, the daily trade-off of the planet. So whether it's official or unofficial, these things are going to be out there. It's just a matter of probably days. Let's see. Loyalty points. Okay, here's one. Sandpit wants to know, when can we hope to see varied drop deck weights? Different mission types. You've already kind of touched on that, but is there going to be any changes to drop decks? Is it set at 240, or is this something you guys are examining? Is there possibilities for different drop decks on different planets, different game modes, etc.?
Yeah, I think at the very least I can say we told the engineers from we told them that they should expect that we would change the tonnage range from the 140 to 240 in the future on a per planet basis. So from what I understand is they programmed it with that in mind. So a lot of that functionality is there. So still doesn't mean exactly when, but we know at the very least, I'm almost certain we will see tonnage limits change per planet. So for instance, when I think the most significant planet loss at this point was Lao lost St. Ives the other day. That might have been a situation where you would have seen different drop tonnage and different rules in place. So I think we'll see that at least in the future. That should probably answer the question, I believe.
Yes, indeed. Logan Hawk asks, back when Community Warfare was originally going to be a series of campaigns, I mentioned that each campaign could be a different era. You had said that sounded pretty cool and that shards might be a good name for them. Is this anywhere close to being a possibility for the future? Different era shards.
Oh, that's an amazing idea. I would love it, but that's extremely difficult based on player counts. I mean, you might have to have the player counts of Dota to kind of pull something like that off. I mean, that's just, if everyone has its own map of the inner sphere with 3,000 planets and even just one per border like we have now, 35 planets up for contention, you have to, you got to have 4,000 or 5,000 players at least heavily engaged in every single shard of Community Warfare. So I would love to see that. I just don't know how for sure we could do that. If all of our players were on board, you could do it seasonally. Seasonally seems a little more possible than just having the multiple shards running at the same time, just based on how many players it would take to fill each of those instances.
Okay, sounds good. Do you want to touch any more on, I think we covered maps pretty much as far as Community Warfare is concerned, right? Is there anything else you want to, before I just kind of X out all those questions?
No, I think that's it. We talked about the two new ones coming. We talked about potentially adding some kind of maybe skirmish landing mode into the current ones. Those are sure things plus dreams. That's all we have at the moment.
Sounds good. Looking at well, one thing that keeps popping up. This isn't community warfare based, but at least I can get you to talk for a few minutes while I find another good community warfare question. People keep saying one word: Solaris. Anything to say on that now? I know you've addressed it before.
Yeah, I'll just say this. Paul and I talked about just earlier today. Um, I mean, that's all I have right now. It's just cool, right? Everyone wants Solaris. It's
Well, the
always on
fact
our
that you were
minds.
talking about it today is big in my mind. I mean, that means it's on the table. It's something that's being discussed. So, yes, we're all aware of Solaris and the things that we all want. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. The cycle of community warfare, 24/7 nature of it. Is first of all, is 24/7. This comes from Poopenshire. Um, is it going to always remain 24/7? Or do you intend to control it at any certain point? Are you worried about player burnout if they're worrying about planets 24/7? Have you thought about setting it up by time zone, and then of course you're dealing with time zone warfare or whatever? What are your thoughts on the nature of community warfare and around the clock?
Well, as you know, originally we said, hey, we should have battle windows. And that was just really about kind of focusing our player base into the peak time zones. So like, European time zone, and then like peak North American, and then like peak, I guess, Oceanic, Australian, and kind of go with three different ones during the day. But there wasn't a lot of love for that. The community wanted a lot more freedom than that to fight throughout the day. So, for the time being, I think 24-hour community warfare is here. A planet flips every day. And like I said, I still think at the moment the best idea we have is to change it from 24 hours to something very slightly over 24 hours so that it slowly rotates throughout the week or whatever. But that's not something that's imminent. That's not something we're working on yet. It just remains at the moment to be sort of the best idea we have at making it a little more fair and slightly rotate throughout all of our worldwide player base. But yeah, I guess 24 hours is it at the moment. There's
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I think that's what players want, and obviously there's nothing bad about 24 hours except for the middle of the night from a North American standpoint, and when there's less players on board and there's a few more auto win type situations happening. So basically, if we can come up with a different solution for that, then we'll see. But that's as much as we have at the moment.
Yeah, I think for downtime, I mean, we just need to continue working on developing those time zones and the player base from those areas. 24/7, I think, will also be much more feasible as the bugs and so forth are ironed out with matchmaking and queue times and people getting in easier. Ethereal Unity from live chat wants to know, and this kind of maybe touches on that a little bit, if 4 versus 4 and 8 versus 8 might ever be introduced into community warfare. And his reference is utilizing some of the older maps that are small and obviously not made for 12v12 community warfare, but also that could potentially address maybe the time zones where there's less of a player population. But anyway, 4v4 and 8v8 ever?
Yeah, I don't know if they would ever include those smaller maps that are mentioned, but the notion of 4v4 and 8v8 happening at lower population times is a good thought. It's something that's come up, and I think there's some validity to that. So for now, I guess all I'll say is there's definitely a seed there that could grow into something. And it sounds like a intelligent solution to our non-peak playing times.
Sounds good. I'm trying to see, did Roadbeer get his cockpit item?
Yeah, there was a link there. Looks like he got his island cockpit items, and yeah, from what I know, it actually animates and everything, so the waves move and
the water moves.
Kind of bobbles. Oh yeah, you've seen one, right? You have one.
Yeah, I was playtesting it.
Actually, I think Roadbeer might be like, I don't know, like the third or fourth person to actually like have one of those and run it in his cockpit. So that was just I don't know. I guess we're it's been long enough, and we made that for fun, and I think right now we can have fun with it, and it's a pretty cool, fun little cockpit item.
Phil and I definitely play tested a little bit to make sure it worked properly. It did. Got a lot of positive reaction. Everybody wants their island. Next question is from Russian Wolf 1972. Good year. That's when I was born. He says, with the way community warfare is set now, if you have one account, you're locked on which mechs to play, while those who set up alt accounts, one Intersphere and one Clan, have access to both sets for community warfare. Is there any way to address this, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's fully addressed already, isn't it? I mean, you know, we talked about seasons, and everyone said no, seasons suck. We have contract lengths, and 7 days is not a very long time. And if you want to break that contract, you have a 2-day cooldown period. So 2 days is not a very long time if you'd like to experience all the other content that you own. If you want to run tons of clan mechs for a week and then run tons of Intersphere mechs for a week, I think that's a very good solution. Okay, first off, let's not forget, any content that you own, jump into public queue and just go hog wild, right? Play it all. Even in community warfare, the restrictions are extremely minor. 7 days at the very most. If you don't want to pay any breaking contract penalties, you can swap from clan to Intersphere. So I think that already gives plenty of diehard loyal canon people enough heartburn to think of contract switching into clans and back to Intersphere. I think that goes plenty far as saying we appreciate the fact that you love all of MechWarrior and that you've supported us in the game by buying both Intersphere and clan packs. And we've tried to give you as many avenues as we possibly can to enjoy that content while still maintaining the spirit of this factional 3049 turning 3050 battle of the Intersphere with the clans invading the Intersphere.
Sounds good. This next question, I don't know who it's from. Sorry, your name somehow got left out, but it's basically about busting the defense. Will you incentivize defenders to come out of their base by providing destructible buildings? I think I know what you're going to say on that. That have game effects, creating a more dynamic battlefield.
Well, for now, I'm just focused on trying to give more reasons and more ability for the attackers to penetrate into the base, penetrate the gates, move beyond the gates, get into the base, brawl inside the base, shoot the mini generators, do more than trade shots at the gate. We don't want the Zerg tactic to be king, and we also don't want the attackers sit at the gates nonstop until 3 minutes left and try to come in. So I want once the gates are open for the attackers ideally to be able to trade some shots while rushing into some protective cover and battling their way up into the base and dealing with the generators, etc. It's going to take a while to get that balance perfect, but that's what I want to achieve. Once that's achieved, I think we can add more depth beyond that. For now, I'm definitely not interested in finding ways of making the defenders to leave the base. At least not until we've solved the other problem.
All right, now I'm struggling here finding questions that aren't overlapping and kind of addressing some of the things that we've already addressed as far as community warfare. So I'm going to ask Deadfire and Wing, if whoever's still active and helping, if you can please move any pertinent questions that are community warfare based that we have not asked up to the top of the document. I would highly appreciate that. And Russ, are you open to taking some non-community warfare questions now until I find more community warfare questions? Russ, you there?
Are you there?
Yeah, can you not hear me? I think I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good to go. Sorry, my thing fell on the ground and busted. So now I'm ready.
Okay.
I am open. I heard you some non-community warfare.
Yeah. Is that
Yeah,
all right?
a few. Maybe this time we'll actually end at
At
8.
the
So
at the
let's
appropriate time.
yeah, let's take a couple questions.
All right. I'll keep looking for these community warfare questions we haven't asked, guys. But gonna move into some non-community warfare questions real quick. Bill Lumbar says, how does PGI plan on keeping players interested and staying in MechWarrior Online, specifically in relation to the new player experience?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Bill Lumbar asks, how does PGI plan on keeping players interested and staying in MWO, specifically in relation to the new player experience?
Well, I think you might understand what my response would be. 2015, I think we'll start out maybe in January. We'll have another town hall. Excuse me, and we could have another talk about this. But basically, January is going to definitely be quite a bit about hardening up community warfare more bugs and problems, and making sure that there's enough queue information for players to know where to go, and group with your faction members. And I don't know if all this will get in January, but there's a lot of, display your titles and the package for loyalty points. We've still got some debt that we're going to have to pay in January. And then, of course, we have a completely new design for, MechLab and the UI in general. That's everything. I know there's lots of questions around how do I search for my modules, how do I search for this, that, or the other. All of that is planned for. I don't know what you want to call it. I've been told not to call it UI 3.0. You guys can call it whatever you want. It's a complete rework, update of the mech labs, certainly, and even beyond that when it comes to the user interface. I do not have an ETA on that, but I know we'll be working on it very early in the new year. So there's that. And that also includes a complete first-time user experience, which includes a brand new tutorial. So there's some plans for you that we're going to do. I don't know when they'll be finished. We're also going to start to work on a Steam integration. Our release on Steam, is it guaranteed at this point? No, it's not. I've talked to Steam. We have our developer, key and all that kind of stuff, and we certainly have all the, credentials and ability to do so. But we're going to continue to harden community warfare and work on this first-time user experience in UI and new tutorials. And beyond that, we're going to work on hit registration, and we're going to work on collisions. We want to get, obviously, mech-on-mech collisions back into the game, including knocking down objects like trees. So there's a ton of work to do. And that's a whole bunch of work that we just need to do to get the game. I guess you could look at it like, when do we take community warfare out of beta and basically say, here we go. This is, the online, MechWarrior Online, clan invasion, etc. Both public queue, community warfare, all of that in a non-beta state. That's like, here you go. Awesome. And then at that point, things like Steam release are available to us. And I know everyone wants to hear it, then it comes down to absolutely at that point, when all that's buttoned up, we would definitely start thinking about, well, what does another single player / PvE MechWarrior product look like? So, we'll certainly think about it, talk about it, but that's the thing. There's definitely, we've got. I'm sure we could be busy the first half of 2015 just in all the stuff I mentioned, from tightening up community warfare, adding more game modes into it, more maps, more logistics, collisions, command wheel, some VoIP, Steam integration, taking all that out of beta and launching it in Steam. There's the first half of 2015 right there, if we want it to be, if that's the way we focus on it. So it's obscene. There's just no end in sight to the work. So trust me, it's like, I guess we know what we're going to be doing for the foreseeable future.
Well, obscene in terms of work, but awesome in terms of the game and it developing further for all of us players. Thank you, Deadfire. We do have some more questions lined up regarding community warfare. So the first one is from Resonant One. He says, How are you addressing the auction sniping victories large factions are abusing to flip planets in the last hour of the battle period, rendering all the work done before worthless? Now, this question was asked a few times from different people in different ways, but basically, they're saying that throughout the day, the planets trading back and forth doesn't really matter. People come in at the last hour and solidify their victories or whatever. Any thoughts on that?
Well, it's the same things. I mean, one, we could increase the number of zones there are. So in case instead of 11 zones and needing 6, let's say it's twice that and needing 12. And then the other thing is the rotating window. Again, something we'll look at in the new year is like making that rotate. So if they want to come in the last hour, it's going to change though, right? The big units in North American time zone, if they want to come in the last hour, are they really going to get up at 4 in the morning? And then the next day they can get up at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning to do it every single day. So it gives everyone an opportunity to be the last units kind of pushing at the end. So that's one way. And then the other way is to increase the number of zones. So be careful about how many zones we increase, because if we double it, then if someone wants to push back through counterattacks, they're going to have twice as far to go, essentially, before they can get it reversed. So there's a couple things to think about. Those are things we can look at. And I think we will start to increase the number of zones that you have to take over as you get closer, down towards the middle of the inner sphere map.
Sure. From chat also, RF Graves has a question about unit skins, and he just wants to know if there can be, unit skins in the future, a one-time purchase for the leader for all members, etc., or maybe by the unit, using unit coffers. I want to expand on this, though, because I'm seeing it with units out there right now. A lot of units, especially now because community warfare is out, they're wanting people to get in unit colors or, maybe even specific patterns or whatever. Will there be any way to add that kind of thing to the unit so that maybe there's some kind of unit discount on certain 3 colors and a pattern or something like that? Any way to put that in the control of the units, allowing units to specialize more or customize themselves more? And I guess that can also roll into decals or decals if you'd want to.
Well, I think the only way I can answer that at the moment is to say our plate's full there, and I think the priority list is something like this. We have the Resistance pack coming out, which is going to introduce the faction packs, or the faction skins for the other 6 of the 10 current factions. So you'll have all 10 of the current factions will have faction skins. And then we've got to go and do the work where we retroactively make sure that all those faction skins don't just work on, those specific packs, but work on all the additional mechs. So that means that the faction skins for Wave 2 need to work on not just the 4 mechs or the 5 mechs, Mad Dog and the 4 from Wave 2, but also the other 8, and works on all of them. And then Resistance has to work on not only those 4 from the Resistance pack, but all the Inner Sphere mechs. We need to get all that done. Plus, we've got a strong desire and request from the community to make sure that you can change the colors on the channels of the faction skins. So I think that's our priority list there, to make sure that every single mech for Inner Sphere can run the 6 Inner Sphere faction skins, and all the clan mechs can run the 4 various clan skins, and then beyond that allow the various units to change the colors within the faction skin. And then if we get all that work done, maybe we can think beyond that to the unit level of like, what can we do to make units stand out? But it sounds to me like at that point a unit could pretty much, especially if they have the faction skins and they can change the colors, they can come out with the exact kind of color scheme that you want to modify the faction skin for. So let's see how that desire and request changes when we get all that other work done.
Absolutely. Goliath from live chat wants to know, you did touch on this a little bit. He wants to know if there can be formal politics for community warfare, formal alliances, alliance chat, alliance leader chat, etc. Now, this I'm sure has a lot to do with UI developments, like you were just speaking of, not just community warfare development, but yeah, just an easier way to communicate. For example, what's already happening is, you might be dropping with a unit and they want to know how the rest of your faction, what planets they're focusing on, which, planet to attack immediately, like real time. Like, should we move to this planet or should we stay on this planet? An easier way for interfaction units to be communicating and organizing on a formal way.
Yes, more all the time, nonstop. It's gonna be so much, it'll blow your mind. That's it, Darren. I'm tapped out, man. That's like it's like more, 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 more. I know.
More. The answer to all these is yes.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to say thanks everybody. I think that we've had a good, very exciting and a good run here in the last 3 months. I think the team basically pulled off a miracle and getting this community warfare beta out into everybody's hands. We basically had to start it, in September when we removed ourselves from IGP. It was really no work done before that. Besides the unit creation stuff was done, but not anything else with community warfare. That was all done since then. It's a massive amount of work and just epic proportions. The engineers that have been involved did just an amazing job. So hats off to them. Hats off to you guys for waiting so long. Continue to spread the word, please, and tell everybody that they should come back and play MechWarrior Online. They should play Community Warfare. I think, when we first released the game, or when we got free of IGP, rather, that, there was, just a complete change in management and everything with the game. And even like we did the full amnesty program and kind of invited everyone back and said, come back. That went really well, by the way. I think for the most part, everyone really saw it for what it is and saying, things are just totally different now. And they accepted that and everyone's got along really well. I will say though, like tomorrow, for instance, I'm kind of throwing that whole thing back in the hands of the community managers. I guess in particular, the customer support staff. Not only do we not have time to manage it anymore personally, I think they've really understood like kind of what our new policy is, and like everything's really good and everything's just working really well. So yes, I guess thank you for being great MechWarrior players, and just please continue to play and keep letting us know what you want, and we'll just keep trying to make the game as good as we can.
Absolutely. I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. We totally appreciate it. All the questions that were submitted earlier, all the questions that were submitted live. Again, I'm sorry that we couldn't get to all of them. I think we can probably arrange, in the new year, pretty soon in the new year, another town hall, kind of recapping some of this and expanding on where we'll be going in 2015. Russ, you be up for that? Something in January, February?
Roger that.
Roger that.
Merry
so you
Christmas,
heard it here.
Everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. And also look for the next weekend update video. Will be coming out Friday. It'll have some really good information for you on things that will be happening over the break. Maybe some events and stuff I can't talk about. But anyway, it's coming out Friday. It's going to be some cool stuff. Some of you were asking about that, what's going to be happening over the holiday. Well, stay tuned. Actually, that info might be released tomorrow even. I don't know. But before the weekend update. But anyway, we'll have that weekend update out on Friday. We'll have a vlog coming in the new year and another town hall as soon as possible. So again, thank you all. Phil, hope you're feeling better, buddy. Thank you for everybody that worked behind the scenes. Wingbreaker, Catch Raquel, Deadfire. Appreciate it. Everybody in the NJNG crew. And of course, all of you viewers and listeners, we appreciate it. This will be up on SoundCloud and YouTube as soon as possible. We'll get the info out so that anybody that missed part of it, whatever, you can pass it out. We appreciate you all for being here. And Russ, thank you, sir. We appreciate you especially for sticking around after a long day of work, and you just explained how much work you guys are having to do every single day. And enjoy your holiday, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Merry Christmas, everyone. See ya.